Minister of State responsible for the informal sector.
Business sector.
Is that correct? Correct.
Yes, I
The
like
Honourables.
the business side of it.
Okay.
Business side.
Tsembiso Nyoni, welcome. Okay. Hi, good evening, Joy TV viewers. Welcome to tonight's edition of Makamba at Night, and please do join me in welcoming the grassroots activist, founder of the Organization for Rural Associations for Progress, shortened ORAP, and the Minister of State responsible for the informal sector in the President's office, in the Vice President's office, Honorable Tsembiso Nyoni. Welcome.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Nice to see you.
You're always quite well outfitted. You must spend a fortune on clothes.
No, I don't.
Huh?
I don't. It's a matter of the right colors together.
The right combination.
And quality.
And the quality.
Yes.
So, Minister, you are back in government.
Mm-hmm.
You had a brief spell out.
Mm-hmm.
You went from being Minister of State in Vice President
Nkomo's office.
Nkomo's office, responsible for
Economic Ministries.
okay,
Yes.
and now you are back as Minister of State in Vice President.
No, in the President's office.
In the President's office.
Yes.
My apologies.
Yes.
In charge of the informal sector.
Yes.
Just tell me that brief spell out outside government. How did it feel when the cabinet list is announced?
Yes.
Okay, and your name is left out? How does it feel? Share with us.
No, I didn't feel, I felt very good actually, because I was not expecting to be appointed, having lost the elections. In fact, I was happy that I was left out, because it was a mammoth task, I'm sure, for the president to choose among all of us as to who was going to go back. And I was one of those people who really left it to His Excellency to really choose other people and give other people a chance. Because I had had my chance. First of all, as a Deputy Minister of Public Construction and National Housing, and then a Minister of State in Vice President Nkomo's office. And I felt it was really time that other people should have a chance. After all, I wanted to go and see how ORAP was doing. So I spent a year trying to see what was happening within my organization.
What reaction do you get from party supporters, people from your constituency, relatives who may deem you as having been dealt with, not a deadly blow, but they are accustomed to seeing you moving around with bodyguards, empowering people in the constituency, driving an executive car, and suddenly all these pecs are removed. How do they react?
No, in fact, it really didn't hit me.
Not you, but your supporters,
My
your
supporters.
relatives, children, and so on.
I think for me, it really wasn't a big blow, because I moved from a Benz to a bigger car, a big car, a Land Cruiser. And after all, I'm a grassroots activist. It felt just as good for me to drive into my friends in Makokova, to drive into my friends, and I had always done that. So it wasn't something that, in fact, I don't put importance into positions of power. I put importance in what any position in power enables me to do. So that then doesn't shake me when I don't have the label of a position, because I believe that a position should give you a facility to do what you want to do. And it shouldn't be something that constrains you, that isolates you, that makes you a different person. Because once you allow positions to do that, then you become a prison of positions. And I think positions should be under us as we occupy them. So I didn't really feel, and if people reacted differently, it was their problem, not mine.
They didn't reflect it.
No, they didn't
before you.
reflect it. No, no.
You are a Christian.
I am.
What do you pray for when you are in office?
I always have a prayer list, and the top of my prayer list is to thank God for giving me life, and that life is His. And the second is that may this life that God has given me be used to serve Him. So I have prayed all the time that I may be a servant, that God may use me. And I don't think there is a day that passes without offering myself to God for His service.
Are you a born-again Christian?
I don't know what that means, but what I know is that I am a Christian and I'm very close to God, and God is close to me.
You've always been.
Yes, yes.
You are referred to as a grassroots activist. How did you get this nickname or this title?
I think this is where my Christian values come, because I believe that God created every one of us for a purpose, and that in every one of us there is God, there is something good. But systems and structures of the world tend to not to look at that core in human beings. It looks at the clothes we wear, the positions we occupy, the titles we hold, and that disturbs me. And therefore, I always want to reach out to who the people are. Therefore, in me, I really wouldn't care a hoot at a certain level, whether you are the richest or the poorest. I then go to people as people. And because I have a passion in bridging the gap between the rich and the poor, the rulers and the ruled, the educated and the uneducated, I always find myself relating and going to listen and to work with those that are disadvantaged.
Yeah, obviously very strong-willed, a very strong-willed person.
Very.
Is this from childhood? Were you always like this?
Yes, I was.
Mm.
I was. I am
what does your mother say or your father say about you growing up as a child? Can you give some examples?
I had a wonderful mother. I am the last girl of 3 girls, and one of my sisters is dead now, but my other one is living here in Harare. And my mother was a very strong woman. She also was a Christian. If I look back, she was always positive. She always encouraged me. She always said good things about me. And if I made a mistake, she would correct it without hurt. But unfortunately for me, I grew up with boys. And then my brothers were very aggressive. And because my brothers were aggressive, I think I grew up wanting to show them that we
stand up to them,
yes, and
measure up to them.
I could stand up to them, but that we were children of one mother who did not discriminate between the boys and the girls. And why should they think that they would be better than me? So I grew up with that spirit of wanting to be my mother's daughter among my mother's sons.
So it's your mother who has had a profound influence on you?
Yes, both in my spiritual, my cultural, and my economic field.
Father?
Yes, my father was a loving man also, but he was the traditional man who really was only supporting and supplying resources to the children. And never the father would hug a child, but my mother would.
Why? That absence of the hug,
I don't know. I think,
hug.
I think maybe traditionally that's what our fathers of our age, it was not a priority. The priority was just to see your children grow and make sure they have clothes, food, but the hugging was left to the mothers.
Mother.
Yes.
Tell me, they say daughters marry their fathers. Okay?
Yes.
And it's very interesting from what you are saying. I have watched you and
Yeah.
your husband
Right.
together
Mhm.
on many occasions.
Mhm.
And by the way, you must have one of the finest husbands around. He's such a fine man, such
He
a
is.
gentleman.
He is. He is.
But listening to you, the relationship between your mother
Mhm.
and your father,
Yes.
I sort of see you and your husband,
Yes.
and your husband more or less fitting this description of
Yes.
your father. Kind of laid back. He allows you to get on, and he doesn't interfere with your
Absolutely.
work, and so on.
Absolutely.
So it must be true then that that profound influence
Absolutely.
of growing up with a father like that, when you go out into life and you begin to look around for a man, that is an influencing factor.
Absolutely. And I think you are right. I have a wonderful husband. He is an intellectual and a very profound man. And he respects me. I respect him. And he supports me. And he, I think he lives for me. I live for him.
Where did you find him? That's because that has become a rare species. What
Yeah.
formula? Tell us the formula.
No, I don't know, but I think he was at college, and I was with the YWCA, and I think I'm a good public speaker. So when I addressed a group of women, and among those women were his professor, and then she said, "Oh, you have to speak to my students." So when I went to speak to these students, and then this Mr. Nyoni was so impressed with this young lady. And then we went and sat under the tree, and we started talking and getting to know each other. And for 3 years, we were really good friends.
You had a catship for 3 years.
Yeah, we're just good friends, and
Uh-huh.
we visited each other and got to know each other. And I think we really profoundly admired each other from then on, and that admiration hasn't stopped.
That's him there.
It is him there. And
Where was this?
This was at ORAP. It was in 1993. I had just won an award, a Right Livelihood Award. And we had finished the celebrations. And it's my son there offering me some flowers with his dad.
Interesting.
Yes.
Where do you come from, Minister?
I come from Slovela.
Silovela.
Yes, it's in the Midlands. It's about 71 km from Kwekwe.
And Mr. Nyoni?
Mr. Nyoni comes from Zishavane. So we are both Midlanders. Yes.
Interesting.
Mhm.
Ziapapa is Nyoni.
Yes.
That means that ukupapa is to fly.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
Okay. Interesting. And you're flying with this man. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
literally.
Of course. Yeah.
Your training, Minister, can you tell us where did you go to school? Where were you trained? What skills?
I went to school in my village in Slobela, and then I went to St. Patrick's in Gweru, and an Anglican school. From there, I went to Bonda, St. David's Bonda in Rosape, Manicaland.
Yes.
And I had always wanted to be a doctor. And during those days, you had to be good in English. So I got everything that it takes to be a doctor, except that I wasn't good at languages. So I got a pass in English, not a distinction. So I couldn't go for Form 5. So I went to do teacher's training. And then I taught for 1 year. After that,
You trained where? The Bonda?
I trained at Mutare Teachers College.
Mm-hmm.
After that, I went to work at Hlekweni for the YWCA.
Hlekweni is where?
It's in Bulawayo.
Uh-huh.
And I was working with women in the training center. I developed a women's program. After that, and then I studied my A-levels, and wrote my A-levels and passed.
When you were at Hlekweni?
When I was at Hlekweni.
Uh-huh.
Then after that, I went to the UK for my further studies. That's where I got I registered at the University of Zimbabwe to do my BA.
Mm-hmm.
But before I finished it, I left for the UK, and then I did my postgraduate diplomas there. And then that's when Mr. Nyoni and I decided, we had known each other enough.
Yes.
So.
I should tie the knot.
Oh yes, we did.
So you tied the knot where? In London?
In Birmingham.
Uh-huh.
So I came home to have all the ceremonies done.
Lobola.
lobola and things.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, I went back and we got married. And then I went back to school to do my further diplomas and my master's in rural social development.
Interesting. And your experience as a student in England?
It was those days when the struggle was on, and it was very tense because we were always anxious to come back home, and we were organizing, clothes and other things to send to our boys, or those days the freedom fighters.
Yeah, they were popularly referred to as boys.
As our boys,
the
yes.
boys, abafana,
Yes.
bakomana.
Abafana bethu.
Yes.
So we used to send clothes and things from the UK.
You remind me of Umdala Wait.
Yes, yes. And when Umdala Wet came, it was wonderful.
So you were a student activist?
Yes, yes. And each college I went to, I would always be a student representative.
Mm.
And I think I've always had this leadership. Wherever I am in the world, I would always be chosen as a student leader. And when we had the Africa groups, I would always be part of the executive of the student African groups.
So you were not born in Nyoni, you acquired that by marriage.
Yes.
Your maiden family name is?
I'm Ndebele.
Ndebele.
Yes.
Ndebele is your surname.
Yes.
Any relation to the former speaker, Cyril Ndebele?
Yes, we're cousins.
Oh,
Yes.
small world.
Small world.
Such a fine man.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, he
Where
is.
is he now?
I don't know. I think he's at home. Yeah,
Mm.
he's at home.
You bump into him from time to time?
Yes. I
Give him
think
my regards if you do.
I will. I
Yes.
will. I think he does some consultancies,
Okay.
and very happy.
A fine lawyer.
Yes, he is.
Yeah.
Yes,
A fine
he is.
wife too, yes.
Yes, yes, yes. It's a very nice family.
So when did you then return back to Zimbabwe? You and Mr. Nyoni?
We got back in May 1980, a month after the independence.
And
The-
what is the first thing that you did?
The first thing we did, my husband was a pastor and a teacher at Dadaya. So I followed my husband as a housewife. But in me, there is this activism. So I used to walk around Dadaya villages to work with village women until Garfield Todd noticed this educated woman who used to walk with a baby on her back to go and work with village women, and he approached Oxfam and asked Oxfam if they could make use of me. And Oxfam came and said, "But what would you like to do, Mrs. Nyoni?"
They came to Dadaya.
Yes. And then I said, "Well, I really would like to work with the rural people." And the Garfield Todd offered me a car, they offered me a consultancy. So I traveled all over this country to try and assess the needs of rural people. And I went to the villages, and you remember during the war, there were village committees that
Yes.
were organized by the boys. So I went into those all over the country, in Chipinge, in Masvingo, Midlands, Matabele, North and South. And then I would ask them that, you people, you organized and won this war. How would you like to turn this whole spirit of organizing and this whole spirit of unity, of purpose, into development? And the president had just announced that we need to turn swords into plowshares. And I used that theme wherever I went to do that research. And then a few people from Midlands and Matabeleland followed me up and said, we really would like to continue the debate of turning swords into plowshares. So that's how ORAP started. And then when they came, we continued the development debate. And then they would go back and mobilize others. This is why ORAP is called a grassroots movement. Because I just instigated through that research. Then people mobilized themselves. And then in Manicaland, we linked with the Manicaland Development Association. They were also doing a similar thing there. And in Masvingo, we linked with the Catholic Church, Sister Margaret Nariwa. She was also dealing something around health. And so as 3 points, I think then I concentrated in Matabeleland and Midlands. So ORAP grew that way.
If you have just joined us on Makamba at Night, we are talking to Tsembiso Nyoni, Mrs. Tsembiso Nyoni, who is the Minister of State in charge of, I must get it right, of the informal sector in the President's office. I got it right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
The disparity between the urban areas and the rural areas, would you say that is narrowed? Is it narrowing, or is the gap, what does it continue to widen?
At a certain level, it's narrowing. At another level, it's growing. Just as if you walk in Mbare, and now that I'm in the formal business sector, I'm seeing this gap wider. Because you will go into the inner cities of Bulawayo, of Gweru, of Harare, Mutare. You find very, very rich people. You find very rich people. And then you go into the suburbs, you find very, very poor people. This is why we are having street kids. So within the town itself, the gap between those who really can put ischwala on their table, I'm not talking about bread and butter. I'm just talking about ischwala, less chebo, are very, very wide.
For the non-Ndebele speakers, by the way, ischwala is sadza, is chebo, is muriwo.
Yes. So the gap between those who can do that, put ischwala, less chebo on their table, and those who really cannot, is widening. That's why you even see
that's
the street
in a typical
kids.
urban setting
Yes.
like
But
Mbare.
Yes, but in the rural areas, those who have got good land, like we have had a distribution of land, those who have got good land and they are in the healthy climatic conditions, they are really making it better than the poor in the town. And one of my passions, therefore, is to bridge that gap, not really only between the urban and the rural, like you are saying, but between all the rich and the poor. Because we cannot be children of God and build a kingdom of God while I sit pretty and have everything, and someone next door can't even send a child to school. And I think internationally, we need to fight that battle. Nationally, we need to fight that battle, and locally. And that, to me, is very important.
You've taken your battles to some very fanciful places in the world. There's Prince Charles there.
Yes.
In that picture.
Yes.
Can you explain the circumstances there?
Yeah, that in 1992, I was invited to be part of Prince Charles Business Leaders Forum, because really of my passion of bridging the gaps between the rich and the poor. And I had been giving a lot of international talks about the subject. And when Prince Charles was launching that, he invited the top business leaders of the world, including Linda Choka, who appears in that picture. And I was invited as the only African and the only woman to really talk about the grassroots. Is it really possible? They were wondering. For these big guys like the heads of Coca-Cola and all the multinationals you can think of in the world, to really reach out to the women I was working with in Village Matabeleland and Village Midlands. And my story was, yes, you can. Because come end of the day, we are your market. And I said, I don't know any woman in the village who has not drunk a bottle of Coca-Cola. But what is Coca-Cola doing? I'm just giving Coca-Cola as an example,
well,
because they were also there.
You're giving them some free advertising time. I don't mind, because the guy who runs the bottling plant is a very good friend of mine, and the new chief executive officer of Delta,
Yes.
He's a very fine man, so you can continue giving them free airtime.
I hope after this they will engage into into the program.
Joy TV advertising.
Yes, into the program that I'm engaged in. So I was saying, you know, all the women in the villages, they drink all the visitors, if there is a wedding, if there is a party. But what has such organizations or companies really done to uplift those women? Because for us to remain just a market and not beneficiaries of the profits they make. And I think my campaign globally for the big businessmen to connect with the grassroots poor, I think it's really taking shape. It wasn't just me campaigning for that, a lot other. This meeting really generated a lot of interest, and that spirit has spread. As it is, I belong to a group called the Global Philanthropists, rich business people that have been put together by a friend of mine and myself and others to look into how they can really share their wealth, not just as donations, but invest among the poor. And I've taken that philosophy into my ministry today. And I am negotiating, I'm sure you've seen me on television, with Zesco Steel, for instance, and Forest Company, and PG Timbers, and others voluntarily, like Kingdom Bank. They are now coming to the poor and making sure that their companies are really benefiting the poor. Like Zesco Steel is having distribution centers, and they've just held a workshop with the steel makers and helped them to perfect their steel work.
Do you have a budget in your ministry?
I'm negotiating a budget. It's not yet through, but I will eventually. Yes.
So the funding for your projects at the moment just largely comes from the private sector?
It comes from
and well-wishers?
Yes, it comes from the private sector and also from other ministries.
You haven't managed to tap into Bill Gates yet?
Not yet.
Because he has put billions and billions aside for...
Yeah, please help me. I would like to...
For development. Maybe you should contact the local Microsoft office.
Yes.
They'll lead you to the foundation, the Bill and Melissa Foundation.
That would be wonderful.
Melissa is his wife, and
Okay.
the foundation is run by his father.
Okay.
And I understand there's something like 70 billion in that fund.
Okay.
As you know, he's worth billions and billions, about $600 billion. Tell me, we'll come back to the informal sector.
Okay.
I've always wondered, you were extremely active in your former constituency of Makokova,
Yes.
was it?
Yes.
You donated sewing machines, you started bread making projects.
Yes.
What else did you do? You were always
you
active.
name it, I did it.
Soap making,
Yes.
scholarships,
Yes.
computerization of schools and so on.
Right.
What happens, the ingratitude from a given constituency, okay? You do all this for a given constituency, and the election day comes, they desert you. Can you explain that?
No, I can, because of my background as being a sociologist and an activist. I think in human beings, sometimes we can't take people for granted. As human beings, there are so many dynamics that are happening around us, apart from the material and maybe quote-unquote superficial relationships. I think sometimes in politics, we develop superficial relationships. And our people out there, they've begun to take politics as a game of gaining something, not as an art or a science to create leaders that rule a nation. Moving a nation from a situation, one situation into another. And I think that a lot of people, especially in poor urban areas, we have not exercised what I would call grassroots politics, connecting to their hearts, talking to them as people, having debate in terms of who are they, where do they want to go, what do they want us to do. And in politics, we are always in a hurry to, because
There's so much to do.
There's so much to do, and we want to achieve it. And then we lose this whole sitting down to talk to the people. But having said that, I think the situation in Matabeleland is complicated It went beyond all of us.
Hmm.
No matter how hard any
Because
one of us.
the former Minister of Education,
Yes,
the
and Home
chairman
Affairs
of Zideco,
yes.
did so much in his constituency.
Absolutely, absolutely.
But he also was
yes.
abandoned.
So that situation went beyond us.
Can you explain?
Well, I think there were so many forces and the people in Matabeleland feeling that they were marginalized. And I think that spread and it grabbed the people. And I think it's time we faced it head on and really sat down with the people.
Is there a formula where you would prescribe?
It has to be found. It has to be found. And it can't be found by one person. I think all of us have to find it. Because I don't believe that we can rule this country comfortably while we are divided. We need, first of all, to cherish the unity that President Mugabe and Vice President Komo put together. And I think when they did that, what then was lacking was a system to go really to the people, to bind their hearts, their visions, and their commitment to nationhood.
But ZAPU had structures which went right down to the grassroots. One would presume, after all, they control the politics of Matabeleland. And if in this unity agreement, those structures became part and parcel of ZANU-PF.
Yes, they did.
Are you saying there were no grassroots structures in the former ZAPU?
I'm not saying that. I'm saying those structures were there. I think this is why the unity lasted this long, especially that Father Zimbabwe was there. But I think apart from just marrying the structures, there has to be visible, tangible development that people relate to, that comes from the center. A lot of people in Matabeleland feel that development did not reach them.
Is it true?
To some extent is true. If you go to the whole of Matabeleland's north, there's only one tarred road from Bulawayo to Vic Falls.
But if you go to Mutoko, there's only one tarred road. If you go to Mount Darwin, there's only one tarred road. We have been making representations. You may not remember, but there was an ex-combatant who was declared a war hero, and Ndoda Wondo,
yes,
who with each visit that the president made to the province, he would make very strong representations. Then when the late Gezi became chairman and governor, he took this up.
Yes.
And we started seeing some activity in tarring a road.
Yes.
And for 22 years now, this one road that goes from Mount Darwin to the border, he has only had some 30 Ks of tarmac.
Okay.
So it's very interesting. If you go to Mashonaland East, they will say, oh, Mashonaland Central is better developed. If you go to Mashonaland Central, they say, oh, Mashonaland West is better developed.
No, I
you
think
go to the Midlands, if I may just finish.
Yes.
You go to the Midlands, people say, oh, the whole of Masvingo is tarred. You go to Masvingo, they say, look at what has been done in Mashonaland West. So I think maybe some of it is more a perception than I would like to see data. I would like to see figures which will say, since independence, these are the resources that have been plowed into Matabeleland North, South, into Bulawayo.
No, we have done that.
Have
For
you?
instance, I chair the Matabeleland chapter of the National Consultative Forum. Let me give you one example where we did the data. That is in forms of education.
When was this?
It was last year. Yes.
So it's pretty current.
It's pretty current. Right. We did it in terms of the educational institutions in Matabeleland North. And what we found out is that in terms of A-level schools, there were so few that, nothing to go to town about. And there is no teachers training college in Matabeleland North. And when you go to Bulawayo, the teachers training colleges in Bulawayo, you'll find that there are very few people from Matabeleland North. And what then the people are saying, when you go to the teachers, the schools, you'll find that the teachers are not from that province. And the teachers may not even speak the language. And the study we did was that the children then abandon the school and go to South Africa because they
Can
are...
I stop you right there? Very interesting what you are saying. In Mashonaland Central, there is no teachers training college.
Okay.
Yeah, okay? Right? And this is where the war of liberation, started. Okay?
But children from Matabeleland, from Mashonaland Central, will be accepted countrywide.
No, but
if you are to...
Let me talk to you, point for point.
Yes.
So we start with tertiary institutions.
Yes.
There's not even one in Mashonaland Central.
Okay.
Trained teachers.
Yes.
For a very long time. I think the situation has only been rectified in the last 2 to 3 years. There were very few trained teachers.
Okay.
I'm talking of Mashonaland Central because my political leadership, is there and was there.
Okay.
I was provincial chairman, I was town board chairman, and as you know, I was member of parliament. So these issues, I have this information on my fingertips.
Okay.
For a very long time, very few trained teachers. Okay. And of the few trained teachers that were there, they were all from other provinces.
But they spoke the language.
They spoke Shona.
Yes, but you go to Matabeleland North, they don't speak the language of the people. And then the people, the children...
You're saying the teachers in Matabeleland North are all...
Not all. But most of them, some of them would not be from Matabeleland. They will not speak Ndebele with the children. They will, So that, anyway, this debate is very important for the nation.
Yes.
Because I think that we need to tell the nation what is happening all over. Because people are seeing their own little corner. And for me, with this informal business sector, I would like information from all the provinces to be made available to the whole nation so that there is no province that feels it's left out. And sometimes provinces or people feel they are left out because information doesn't go. But really, whatever we say, comparing to other provinces,
the perception
is that the perception and the reality in Matabeleland North, Matabeleland North lags behind.
Is it different? Sorry, carry on.
For instance, if you go right now, you'll find that there is no local authority that is working in Matabeleland North. Why?
When you say local authority, you mean councils?
The councils, yes.
Yeah.
But most of them.
But the councils are elected by the people. The leadership is elected
by
the people.
But most DAs are acting DAs. So anyway, those are the things that...
But you had the national chairman of the party, Minister John Nkomo, as Minister of Local Government for a very long time. Why didn't he rectify that? You talk to him?
I don't know. But I think those things happened after he left.
You had Minister Darengwa as Minister of Home Affairs, quite a critical ministry, and which portfolio has now been assumed by the national chairman.
Yes, I don't want us to inflict blame on what is happening on individual people. I think let us look at what is happening there and really try and see. I think those things do exist, and I'm glad to say there are people that are looking into it and putting corrective measures to them. And it's very important for us not to bury things and close them and say and pretend that problems don't exist. I think even those people in those problem areas need to take responsibility. And we should not think that responsibility to correct a situation lies only with central government.
Okay.
It also lies with all level of leadership, including people that are in those provinces.
Very interesting.
I don't even know why we came into discussing Matabeleland North as an issue, but I think
it's part of Zimbabwe.
Yes, but I think that the point really that I want to make to the
nation. We're talking about development.
Yes,
what and I want thrust of grassroots.
Yes,
and economic empowerment for the majority, for the ordinary. which most Zimbabweans, all of us,
No,
cherish.
no, no. We were talking about why people lost in Matebeleland.
Exactly.
And if we don't really, if we say, you know, in Mashonaland it's like this, then it's like this, then we are missing the point.
Okay.
And I think the point I'm making is that the reason why we lost is what I am saying. If those perceptions exist,
They need to
and
be corrected.
then you say, no, they shouldn't exist because they are the same as in Mashonaland Central. They shouldn't exist.
No, not in Central. We just gave Central as an example. Where
yes.
was this?
This was in Makoko. I had just won the elections, and those were the women that day, my friends.
That's a famous face.
Yes.
Is she a former provincial chairman?
She's a
Chair
central committee member. In,
Mrs.?
Mrs. Moyo.
Mrs. Moyo.
Yes.
And this?
One of my passions is to really look after children, to bring up youth. And I've brought up a lot of children, you know, my foster daughters and sons. That was a graduation of one of my best sons, Thompson Dube.
And of course, Mr. Nyoni is always there.
Yes, yes. And
you are blessed.
That's his wife.
But talking about development,
Yes.
or developmental issues, almost every MP, I think, except for 2 constituencies, lost the ZANU-PF MPs or
Yes,
candidates
Yes.
in the year 2000.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
How do you explain the regaining of 4 constituencies by President Mugabe in the recent presidential election? Would that be a sign that some development is beginning to take place, is reaching the people, all the perceptions are being corrected? Can we dwell on that? We have 2 minutes.
Yes, I think these perceptions, we must not just brush them aside. And as a leader from Matebeleland, I really would not be true to the people I represent if I brush them aside. They exist.
Sure.
My responsibility is to say, why do they exist? Maybe we need exchange programs so that they feel a part of the nation. Maybe we need, beyond those assumptions, there are realities. We need to address those realities. We cannot brush assumptions away. Assumptions are a result of what is not seen, or what is seen and buried. And I think the reason why maybe we are gaining is that some of us are beginning to say, we are sorry, we overlooked ABCD, and we are prepared to take corrective measures. We are prepared to look and discuss your assumptions. We are prepared to look at your reality. We are prepared to take corrective measures. And I think that's my stand. I'm saying to the people in Matebeleland, there are a lot of things we have not done together with you. And we are available to take corrective measures. And the people in Matebeleland, they connect to the hearts of people. They will let you go, but when they think you are not genuine, you are not serious, you are politicking, they will let you go, they will curl in and they will do their own thing. And I think there are some of us that are saying, genuinely, we want to be part of the grassroots, part of community, part of the provinces, part of the nation.
Yes.
And therefore, let's honestly and truthfully talk about what are the problems. And let us honestly and truthfully address the realities and not gloss them as if they don't exist. If I have a perception that Makamba hates me,
oh, please.
because because you didn't greet me yesterday.
You could have chosen another example.
No, it's because you are here. You can,
Sure.
Because you didn't greet me yesterday. And I just have that perception that you really hate me because yesterday you didn't greet me. And then, Lami, I meet you, I don't greet you. And then we don't talk about why this communication breakdown. Tomorrow, we may even not, talk to each other. We may not even, work together.
Then there's a build-up.
It is those small things in human relationships,
we need to
in
break
political relationships, that matter.
Minister, do you dwell on women empowerment, or empowerment for the nation as a whole?
I'm very passionate about family development.
On that note, we have 30 seconds. in that camera,
Yes.
can you talk directly to the viewers and leave them a message for the family?
I think family is very important. As women, we need to cherish a whole family. Because if you are a strong woman and you have a weak man who doesn't strengthen and support you, you end up not realizing your whole potential. And if you are a strong man and you have a weak woman, a woman who doesn't support you, you don't realize your whole potential. I think in a family, children, fathers, mothers need to work together and support each other. And that is very important. People think that women's sleep strengthens women. Women's sleep alone cannot build a nation. But it is women's sleep that is also married with the emancipation of men to strengthen and recognize the potential in women.
Minister, it's a pity we've run out of time, but you have been extremely kind and some thought-provoking assertions you made there. We hope we can have you back sometime.
Thank
but
you.
take my good wishes to your lovely husband.